Chapter 18. Frank. Frank might have liked Venice if it hadn't been for summertime and tourist season, and if the streets weren't overrun with large hairy creatures. Between the rows of old houses and the canals, the sidewalks were already too narrow for the crowds jostling one another and stopping to take pictures. The monsters made things worse. They shuffled around with their heads down, bumping into mortals and sniffing the pavement. One seemed to find something it liked at the edge of a canal. It nibbled and licked at a crack between the stones until it dislodged some sort of greenish root. The monster sucked it up happily and shambled along. "Well, they're plant eaters," Frank said. "That's good news." Hazel slipped her hand into his. "Unless they supplement their diet with demigods. Let's hope not." Frank was so pleased to be holding her hand. The crowds and the heat and the monsters suddenly didn't seem so bad. He felt needed, useful. Not that Hazel required his protection. Anybody who'd seen her charging on Arion with her sword drawn would know that she could take care of herself. Still, Frank liked being next to her, imagining he was her bodyguard. If any of these monsters tried to hurt her, Frank would gladly turn into a rhinoceros and push them into the canal. Could he do a rhino? Frank had never tried that before. Nico stopped. "Ah." They turned into a smaller street, leaving the canal behind. Ahead of them was a small plaza lined with 5-story buildings. The area was strangely deserted, as if the mortals could sense it wasn't safe. In the middle of the cobblestone courtyard, a dozen shaggy cow creatures were sniffling around the mossy base of an old stone well. "A lot of cows in one place," Frank said. "Yeah, but look," Nico said. "Past that archway." Nico's eyes must have been better than his. Frank squinted. At the far end of the plaza, a stone archway carved with lions led into a narrow street. Just past the arch, one of the town houses was painted black, the only black building that Frank had seen so far in Venice. "La Casa Nera?" he guessed. Hazel's grip tightened on his fingers. "I don't like that plaza. It feels cold." Frank wasn't sure what she meant. He was still sweating like crazy. But Nico nodded. He studied the townhouse windows, most of which were covered with wooden shutters. "You're right, Hazel. The neighborhood is filled with lemures." "Lemures?" Frank asked nervously. "I'm guessing you don't mean furry little guys from Madagascar." "Angry ghosts," Nico said. "Lemures go back to Roman times. They hang around a lot of Italian cities, but I've never felt so many in one place. My mom told me." He hesitated. "She used to tell me stories about the ghosts of Venice." Again, Frank wondered about Nico's past, but he was afraid to ask. He caught Hazel's eye. "Go ahead," she seemed to be saying. "Nico needs practice talking to people." The sounds of assault rifles and anabombs got louder in Frank's head. Mars and Ares were trying to out each other with Dixie and Battle Hymn of the Republic. Frank did his best to push that aside. "Nico, your mom was Italian," he guessed. "She was from Venice?" Nico nodded reluctantly. "She met Hades there, back in the 1930s. As the World War II got closer, she's fled to the US with my sister and me. I mean, Bianca, my other sister. I don't remember much about Italy, but I can still speak the language." Frank tried to think of a response. "Oh, that's nice," didn't seem to cut it. He was hanging out with not one, but 2 demigods who'd been pulled out of time. They were both, technically, about 70 years older than he was. "Must have been hard on your mom," Frank said. "I guess we'll do anything for someone we love." Hazel squeezed his hand appreciatively. Nico stared at the cobblestones. "Yeah," he said bitterly. "I guess we will." Frank wasn't sure what Nico was thinking. He had a hard time imagining Nico D'Angelo acting out of love for somebody, except maybe Hazel. But Frank decided he'd gone as far as he dared with personal questions. "So the lemures," he swallowed. "How do we avoid them?" "I'm already on it," Nico said. "I'm sending out the message that they should stay away and ignore us. Hopefully that'll be enough. Otherwise, things could get messy." Hazel pursed her lips. "Let's get going," she suggested. Halfway across the piazza, everything went wrong. But it had nothing to do with the ghosts. They were skirting the well in the middle of the square, trying to give the cow monsters some distance, when Hazel stumbled on a loose piece of cobblestone. Frank caught her. 6 or 7 of the big gray beasts turned to look at them. Frank glimpsed a glowing green eye under one's mane and instantly he was hit with a wave of nausea, the way he felt when he ate too much cheese or ice cream. The creatures made deep throbbing sounds in their throats like angry foghorns.